We're talking college sports in the Deep South, where college football is king. And in the Deep South, we would like to think that the SEC is probably the better conference in college football. The SEC West, a very competitive conference in sub-conference, actually, in college football. And in the Deep South, the battle cry is War Eagle. Once again, it's K-Stu the GOAT for Vernon Speak Sports. YouTubers, we're mostly talking Auburn football and sometimes other teams in the SEC. We've actually covered some on Oregon as well. Oregon is actually Auburn's first opponent, which will be on display in the Advocare Classic in Arlington, Texas. A very highly anticipated game for the Auburn Tigers, as well as the Oregon Ducks, who have aspirations to win their first Pac-12 championship since 2014. They would like to believe in Eugene, Oregon, where the University of Oregon is located, that they have a possible Heisman hopeful in Justin Herbert. That remains to be seen. Spring practice, obviously, for the Auburn Tigers is now in the books. There were some things that we saw that we liked. There were some things that we weren't able to see because of the lack of contact with the quarterbacks. We really couldn't tell how they would respond to contact in the run-pass option offense that Gus Malzahn would like to run and that he will run this year. We didn't get a chance to see what will probably be an insane amount of tempo from the Auburn Tigers. That's something that Gus Malzahn predicates his offense on. Usually the sign of tempo is coming is a play is executed for about 5 to 6, 7 yards or more. That's when the tempo is starting. Okay. If you can hold Auburn to, third down and more than 5 type situation, that's when you can start to slow the tempo down. Some teams have been successful with Auburn against Auburn defensively by doing this, and largely a number have not. But then the question that I had for myself was, what will this version of the Gus Malzahn offense look like with all the elements involved? I'm going to take you back to 2013 when Nick Marshall was quarterback for the Auburn Tigers, a 12-2 season, SEC champions, and a national championship appearance. What this offense looked like was a very, very run-heavy, I'm talking about severely run-heavy offense between Nick Marshall, Cameron Artis-Payne, Corey Grant, and, of course, Trey Mason, combined for 4,123 yards, with only Nick Marshall with about 1,900 yards passing. So needless to say, that was actually a very, very run-heavy version of the run-pass option. And the reason being is because that's the rhythm that started to unfold, especially after the Texas A&M game. They didn't particularly have to pass because no one in the country could stop the run-pass option. And then when you look back at it, Nick Marshall wasn't exactly Tom Brady throwing the football. He was somewhat effective, but that wasn't his strong point in 2013. So you're looking at a very run-heavy offense where the quarterback even 1,000+ yards. Of course, your feature back with 1,800 yards. Usually 1,800 is enough, to solidify a solid running game. But to have other guys on the team contribute 600 yards apiece, that's some heavy running, and that's also some some high percentage type plays where where turnover factors to where there's not as many turnovers. Also, when you have a run-heavy offense, you can do a better job of controlling time of possession, which was something that hurt the Auburn's defense on last year. So that version of the Gus Malzahn offense is very run-heavy, very high percentage, very low risk, because all you're doing is handing the ball off and running it, or you're quarterback and you're keeping it. Also, which really helped was that year Auburn had an incredible offensive line. Okay. Now, we would like to think going into 2019, they probably won't be the offensive line from 2013, but everybody's coming back. You know, they have a wealth of experience. They did start to improve in some areas down the stretch. Saw some, good points against Georgia and Alabama, although, both times surrendering that game, losing that game. Also did incredible against Liberty. But, of course, Liberty is somewhat of a menial opponent. But it was great to see the offense start to gel. And then, of course, playing very well against Purdue. Now, as we look at the 2014 season, on the other hand, for the Auburn Tigers, which was more so a little bit more balanced. One of the reasons that it was so balanced is because over the course of the offseason, Nick Marshall improved passing the football. As a matter of fact, 60.8% of his passes completed, 2,532 yards passing, 20 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. A pretty decent season, considering that this is a young man that passing the football just was not his strong point. I mean, like I said before, he ain't no Joe Montana, no Peyton Manning, nobody like that. Okay. So also, when you look at the run production, Nick Marshall did not run the ball quite as much. 798 yards that year. Also, Cameron Artis-Payne with 1,600 yards. And the contributors didn't contribute quite as much. Corey Grant only had 364, Rock Thomas at 214, and Ricardo Lewis at 220. And the start of the Peyton Barber era came in 2015. He only had 54 yards. Okay. So not a lot of outside production between Nick Marshall and Cameron Artis-Payne, which, in my opinion, that's why the 2014 offense just did not. I'm not going to say I didn't like the offense, but I just wasn't really excited about how this offense looked. Of course, Cameron Artis-Payne was a great running back, but he just didn't have that entertainment element like, say, Trey Mason, Michael Dyer, those guys, Kenny Irons, Brad Lester, those kind of guys. He just didn't have that type of factor. He was a very rigid runner, in my opinion. Kind of, just didn't really excite me, But either way, when we look at the offense coming into 2019 and all that I saw in the spring game, it leads me to think that you're going to get the best of both the 2013 and the 2014 season. One, you're going to have a quarterback that can throw the football to some degree of accuracy. Now, let's just say, for example, if it is Joey Gatewood's deep ball, to me, was questionable in the spring game. Otherwise, he can make any throw on the field. Okay. Of course, we didn't get a chance to see the sample size of what he could do genuinely with the run-pass option where everything is live. But all indications tell us that he is very, very viable in this type of setting offense-wise. So it just leads me to believe, based on him having a legitimate threat to run the football, he can throw the ball relatively well. I would go out on a limb and say, at least with more accuracy than Nick Marshall, that the passing game should be on point, that Auburn should not have to be a strictly run-heavy team. Then you look at the rushing side of the football, a lot of versatility. Back when Auburn had, say, the Cameron Artis-Paynes and the Corey Grants, not near as much diversity as you have in, say, DJ Williams and Mark Anthony Richards, who will be coming this fall. Also, you change the pace big time with a guy like Cam Martin, Boobie Whitlow, and of course you throw Shaun Shivers in the mix, and you have a real interesting, very difficult to prepare for core of running backs. All right, so we're going to look at this. I believe, like I said, if you could put together the 2013 and 2014 offenses, I think that's what you got going into 2019. Once again, it's KC the GOAT for Vernon Speaks Sports. We're mostly talking Auburn football. Go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Fearless and True Gang, let's get the comment section going. How do you think Auburn's offense will look in 2019? Go ahead and leave your comment. War Eagle.